All right, let's say you've got $75,000 to spend on a brand new electric crossover to commute, to drive your family around, to drop the kids off at school and get groceries, and you're probably never gonna road trip, and you want it to be just a little bit sporty, just a little sportier than the average Model Y. Well, this is an option. There's the Honda Prologue, there's the Chevy Blazer, and then there's this. They're kind of all the same thing with a different skin, but this is the Acura ZDX, and it's the sporty one, so it's the Type-S. So, because it's a little sportier, it's got less range. This is like 280 miles of max range, and it only charges at 190 kilowatts, so I wouldn't road trip in this, but if you'll notice, the list I gave you at the beginning of the video didn't have road tripping on it. So this could do it for you. So I've reviewed a few Acuras before, and I've lived with a couple other crossovers and SUVs from them, but I like the NSX, so I have a soft spot for Acura. But I think this looks appropriately sporty. I actually think this color here, which is called Tiger Eye, is maybe my favorite color I've seen in a car all of this year. Not even joking. Great name, great color. It looks like it's showing up well on camera, but yeah, that's Tiger Eye. But honestly, pretty sporty looking in general for a Type S. You've got this line on the front of the hood. I like these LED headlights at the front, like this angle right here. That's looking pretty sporty, if you ask me. Oversized Acura logo with that hidden camera in the front. There is no front trunk, but if you come around to the side, I think if this trim was black instead, or maybe if that trim was black, it would look a little better, but generally a pretty good looking silhouette. And then look, there's a million cars in this shape in America, like this little crossover shape where you've got a hatchback and you've got a bigger trunk. There is a ton of these out, so you can kind of just pick your poison as far as how much practicality and range you want to buy, how much performance you want to buy, but they all kind of have to do the same thing, which is have a lot of trunk space, right? Have a good sized back seat. Ideally, you can fold down that back row, and then you get a whole bunch of extra space there. So if you have like large items, you could fit a bicycle in here if you wanted to. And then they all have to sort of drive in a comfortable enough way that it doesn't intimidate anyone, be practical and easy to use. And I would say that this one accomplishes that. The thing that's going to differentiate this one from the others is, one, this is the Type S, so it is a little more performance, about 500 horsepower, and it's dual motor, so it's all-wheel drive. And then it's going to be a bunch of subtle things. It's going to be things like the fit and finish inside, a little bit of UI and features and materials, but in general, I mean, if you've lived with an Acura or seen them before, you know they're practical, and this gets a lot of things right, so I'm happy. Now, there are some I would say excess plastic things happening here. A lot of this, I mean, basically all of these buttons and all the touch points here that you feel are plastic. But layout-wise, I think a lot of people are going to be happy. So first of all, it's got the power button, a lot of GM, you know, that's just a thing that they do. It also has this pedal right here behind the steering wheel, which I have grown to really like. That's your pull for extra regen button, but you also have one pedal driving. So if you just hit that button right there, you can turn one pedal driving on or off. I think, yep, there you go. And you can set the level. So if you set it to high, you fully take your foot off and you go all the way to a stop. It's great that it has that. It's got an HUD in front of me. It's got a sunroof. It's got heated and ventilated front seats. It's pretty well equipped. It's nice. You know, you're not getting gypped for $75,000, but then you start to live with it. And at this point, there's so many cars of this shape and size that the differences between them start to feel, they're subtle, but when you live with them, they add up to a big difference. It gets a bunch of little things that I'm about to say, but that some others in this category might or might not have. So here's an example, right? This screen right behind the steering wheel, you can see there's an HUD, but I do look at this screen and it's got this hood over it, and it's kind of a big projecting hood that actually keeps glare off of that screen really well. I think that's nice. Not all of them do that. Here's another little thing. There's a center console here, a spot to put some keys or your phone, 2 cup holders, and then there's a single wireless charger for your phone, which is cool, but a lot of them have 2. A lot of them have one for the driver, one for the passenger, and I just kind of feel like it would have been nice to have 2 wireless chargers for your phone. And then another one, this spot down here. So there is some storage technically underneath this center console spot. I've driven a lot of EVs that have a wide open center console, a little bit less traditional. This is more of a normal looking center console. But when it's wide open, I find that if I go get groceries or I have a backpack or a bag of something I just got, some food, I'll just put it in that middle spot. And I feel like I can't do that here. I end up just putting it on the seat next to me because I just don't use that center console storage for anything. It's just there. But then, you know, you have the software, which is great. Wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. You see the button for CarPlay right there. And the software otherwise is pretty good. This camera is just a little bit low. That's something I see on a lot of cars, but it's fine. This is a volume knob. I love that. It's super useful. It's a little far to reach, but again, tiny little things. But some other upsides of living with this car are, one, it has Google Assistant built in, so anytime you talk to it, and if you're signed in, that stuff works pretty quickly and can use the maps built in and navigate to chargers. Good stuff. This also has decent sounding speakers. Decent. So it's a Bang & Olufsen system, and you can see one of the speakers up here. There's always a ton of speakers all around these cars. And I guess maybe, I think I might be also a little bit swayed by another car in this price range that I'm reviewing that has insanely good speakers. So maybe take this with a grain of salt, but these speakers are just okay. They're fine. Nothing to write home about, but they work. Having a sunroof, always a nice plus. I like that you can close it too with a shade. And I just generally think it feels more airy when you have that sort of space. And then I'll show you the back seat because it's a really nice space also. It's gonna ask me to hit that power button every time. But there's really good legroom back here in the ZDX. So let's pop that door. And this is behind the 6'3" driving position, and that is plenty of space, which is good to see. You also have some controls back here for your vents, up or down. You can go auto, you can change from heat and cool to USB-C and full-size outlet, which is really nice. So, you know, you live with the car and you find that maybe you've only used that full-size outlet once or once in a while. Or maybe you only fold these seats down to put something huge in the back once in a while. Or maybe you only have the sun glaring in your face once in a while, but you have this little net thing, which a lot of these cars have now. Why is this phone so zoomed in all of a sudden? But it's there in case you need it. So a well-equipped car that's not missing anything. Great. And then you get to the way it drives, and because it's a Type S, and one of the criteria I mentioned earlier was being kind of sporty. God, that's such a nice color. It is kind of sporty. It does have the 500 horsepower we talked about, and it does have this pretty soft suspension, this air suspension that to me does a good job of riding nicely and comfortably without being floaty. So it is quick. It's got plenty of acceleration. Don't let the 0 to 60 number fool you. I don't know what the number is off the top of my head, but it's not something amazing, but it is very torquey and quick, kind of like the iX has been. So this thing's really nice to drive. It's sporty, it's stable, it's on big wheels, and you'd hardly notice this thing rides so nice. So all together as a package, this one's really good. I just wish it had more range. I just wish I could maybe road trip it once in a while if I really felt like it, but I don't think I would. I don't think with 275 miles of range and 190 kilowatt charging that I would want to road trip in the ZDX Type-S. Last thing I'll comment on though is the software, because I think this will be the last difference maker when you're choosing between this and maybe some other cars. And I think this software, in general, my take is it's pretty simple, but at least it's easy to navigate. And I think I reference BMW software a lot because it's kind of like, it's on the other side of the spectrum. There's a ton of settings, but it's also a little harder to navigate. This is basically all the settings you need. If you jump in the Play Store and add apps, they'll get added here on subsequent pages. And then you can see it has CarPlay and Android Auto wireless, but if you want to just move these around, you can move them around wherever you want. Like this is customizable, and so you sort of just put the things you want to touch the most often closest to you because it's harder to reach the stuff over here. And that's kind of it. Like this is basically all the settings for the whole car right here, for the memory of the things it remembers about you. Notifications show up at the top like a phone. If you want to pair your phone, that's in Bluetooth. If you want multi-panel stuff, you can go Google Maps here, but you can go multi-pane with the car's content. So it's fine. It's responsive. It works. The one pedal driving is always at the top for some reason. Fine. I know where to find it. But in general, my summary of this ZDX Type-S is very livable and a really nice color. I really like this color, this tiger eye. I think, again, in this segment, there is a ton of choices now. I remember talking about this not that long ago, but at first there were only so many EVs, so they all kind of got compared to each other. Now, in the category of like utility, basic crossovers and SUVs, there's a bunch of electric options. Stay tuned for the next review. It's another one of these that has a very different pros and cons list, but the question is, would you pick this for the 75 grand to do the basic stuff? The groceries, the kid hauling, the comfort driving, the occasional sporty stuff? Let me know. Also, more cars of this color, please. I like it. Catch you later. Peace.